equilibrium. Let's take the case of the Bani Israelis for instance. It was when they had destroyed the soul of the Jewish faith that Allah revealed the messenger Isa alayhi salam to rectify the situation. He claimed, "I have not been sent to void the laws of Musa. Indeed, I bear witness to it and confirm the law of Tawrat." As he was sent to restore the spirituality of the Judaic faith, the gospel Isa brought with him did not contain any Sharia or national law. It held the principles of personal enrichment through piety and charity. All this was restricted within and applicable only to people of the Judaic faith. However, after the ascent of Isa alayhi salam to heaven, Paul preached among people outside the boundary of the Judaic faith. The result was that the en masse converts to the new faith entered a system that was devoid of one and every national aspect. They failed to understand that a system of life minus the economy, social life, penal code, politics and national government was not only improbable, it was dysfunctional, impossible. Yet, this was what they tried to do. Subsequently, in their utmost effort in establishing an imbalanced way of life over the whole of Europe, these new Christians gradually came to face an unending clash between this worldly life and the hereafter. This clash between the rulers and the church became so poignant that the life of the common man was seriously threatened. This led to the need of creating a system outside the direct intervention of the church. During the reign of Henry VIII in 1537, it was finally decided that the church and state would be officially separated. The laws that govern the social, economics, national, example, collective lives of people would be decided by the people themselves. The limitations of right and wrong, of moral and immoral, would henceforth be decided by man himself. The Lord Creator ceased to have any say over these matters anymore. For the first time in history, man as a collective entity opted to forego the word of the Maker and usurp sovereignty for himself. This gave rise to a soulless, godless, materialistic civilization that the Messenger of Allah allegorically described as the Dajjal. Let us catch a glimpse of the Dajjal's evolution through video footage.
The part of the world where Islam was established dwelled in peace and harmony, in direct contrast to the large piece of Europe outside the perimeter of this way of life. They tried in vain to consolidate the faith promulgated by Paul in their collective lives. The various European kings ruled over their lands under the direct guidance provided by the Pope and the interpretations handed out by the clergy. Blinded by their faith and dependence on this clergy, the kings and rulers were compelled to obey the directives these men of God handed out. Whenever the rulers tried to go against them, the Pope and the clergy would incite the general people in the name of God and force the kings to carry out their edicts. The famous astronomer Galileo Galilei was one of the many who was put to death under directives of the Christian clergy. The number of innocent women who were burned at the stake on charges of witchcraft remain unknown. Medieval barbarism is a phrase that was coined to convey the horror of the persecution, torture and superstition of Christian Europe. This infamous label was later imposed on the Muslim civilization by these very people. The history of Europe given here after the departure of Isa alayhi salam has been a long chain of events comprising of the dual role of kings and the clergy. Between the autocratic rule of the rulers and the fatwa, edict dispensing clergy, the common man's life indeed was miserable. For hundreds of years, the conflict between the church and the man took a huge toll of lives, resulting in utter disgust of faith on the people's part. The history of this conflict is so long and horrifying that it is not possible to detail it all in this video. They reached a point where there were only two options open to the rulers of Greater Europe. One was to renounce the faith of Christianity altogether, or second, to banish it to the narrow sphere of personal life only, from where it could hold no control over the national, social, political and economic lives of people. As it was not possible to make so many people renounce Christianity and revert to paganism, the latter was taken up for serious consideration. During the reign of Henry VIII of England, the final step was taken, and Christianity lost its hold over the entire lives of the Christian population, was banished to the realm of personal life only. Sovereignty was effectively usurped from the Maker and placed in the hands of man. The Dajjal was born.
Dear audience, since the Judeo-Christian civilization matches the description of the Dajjal, let us clear the concept of civilization as best as we can. The root word of civilization is civil, example, cordial, cultured, good. In other words, a system that is based on the ideas of goodness, righteousness and lawfulness is a civilization. From the beginning of time, Allah Himself has provided mankind with these ideals. The criterion of right or wrong has been His through His Nabis and Rasuls. This system is known to us as religions. For example, the Islamic civilization, the foundation of which lies in the sovereignty of Allah Himself, La ilaha illallah, with which all authority on every aspect of human existence, of social, economic, political and personal, rests with Allah. In short, in the Islamic civilization, all criterion of good and bad, lawful or unlawful, is decided by Allah. Man himself has no authority or right to comment. On the other hand, in case of the new civilization that came into being in Europe in 1537, it was man himself who was the authority of judging between right and wrong. In collective social lives of mankind, the power to judge between do's and don'ts lay with man. Here, the Creator no longer had any say. In short, man replaced Allah as the Ilah, the sovereign from that time onwards. This was the beginning of the Dajjal, which has now passed its infancy, childhood, and matured into an adult. After 473 years, its tyrannical rule has extended its tentacles all over the world today. In their ignorance, the whole of mankind, as well as the entire Muslim population, lay prostrate at its feet. The only way to determine if this technologically advanced civilization is indeed the Dajjal, described by the Messenger of Allah, or not, is to compare the hadiths relating to it to the actual scenario of this civilization.